Well, hello rock nerds, lapidary lovers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. And we're going to do some more cutting on the Lortone lapidary saw today. Cutting some more stuff. Some more stuff I brought back from the west in my recent trips. Now, unlike the last couple videos where I didn't know really what I was cutting into, I've actually been doing a lot of cutting off camera. And I know what I've got here this time. So this isn't going to be so much exploratory surgery as precision slab cutting to make cabs in the future, okay? So we've got some interesting rocks here. We may throw in a geode or two that we don't know what's inside just for the fun of it. But we're going to cut some rocks here that I've already cut into, and I like what I see, although they do have problems. Alright, we'll talk about the rock we're going to cut first in a second. But, you know, I've got this this solid geode or thunder egg here with lots of nice agate banding around the edge. I want to try and cut some thin slices out of this. I think they would look amazing if they were thin enough to be translucent, so we'll try that. I've got a piece of petrified wood over here with some really amazing blue color. I had a big chunk of this, and I took a lot of cuts on it, but it was so fractured it would just fall apart into pieces. Little pieces, which I'm tumbling, by the way. But I've got into it to the point where there's an area here that looks fairly solid. I might be able to get a slice off of this without it falling apart. Yeah, this part up here is going to fall apart for sure. And there's part of a fracture down here I can see, and this corner is going to fall off. But hey, might get a thick enough piece over here that could be cabbed, and that might be pretty because it's got some pretty blue, some red, some clear. You know, that's kind of neat. This piece over here, and we'll see if this will hold together because I can see some fracture lines in it, but you can see the radial lines of the wood in this. And I would really like to see what a thin slice of this along those radial lines looks like. So we'll try that. And then this stuff up here, well, this is really crumbly. You can see all the fractures in it. But as I've cut into it, I've gotten into an area of really pretty black, yellow, red, orange mineralization. It's really pretty. And most of the fracturing is down here. I might be able to get a slab or two out of this area up here. Now that mineralization's fairly thin up there. It looks like it graduates to all red. We'll see. But I mean, this area looks fairly solid in there. You know, yeah, we're going to lose this. In fact, I might just cut the bottom of it off first. But we might be able to cut through here and get a few slabs of this really pretty color stuff here. So, and like I said, we might throw in a geode or two too. And maybe something else if this video doesn't get too long. And let me show you what's in the saw already and talk about it. Yes, I know the saw is a horrible mess. It doesn't take long. I cleaned it all up the last time I was cutting the banded iron. And well, I've been doing a lot of cutting on it in the last few days. And well, it's a horrible mess again. I'm going to have to clean it all up again and put some fresh oil in it. I may experiment with actually filtering the oil that's in there. We'll see. Maybe I can even just sort of squeeze oil out of all the crud I get out of here. The mineral oil is getting expensive. But I've just constructed a new vise for in here. I've taken the big vertical vise that we had out of here for holding big rocks. Now this is totally reversible. I can put that big vise in if I decide to take some more cuts on these big rocks down here or other big rocks. That's totally reversible, so I can put it back in. But this smaller vise allows me to hold rocks a little more precisely and make thinner cuts on them. So, you know, especially when I'm dealing with small rocks, like some of the ones we're going to do today are pretty small. So this vise I've built, basically I've bolted a small drill press vise down onto this platform here, and I got some wood, jaws that it clamps into. So that's what I did. Fairly simple, easy, and inexpensive. I don't know, took an hour. So here's the rock we're going to cut first. Let me clean it up a little bit. Can you see that pattern in there? Wow. Yeah. So I've been taking a lot of cuts on this rock, and as I've been getting into it, I'm like, whoa, this is impressive. Wait a minute. So I want to try and get a slab or two off of this one that are thick enough to cab. Okay? But let me show you what I've done with this rock already. So I'll show you why I want to start with the rock I've already got in the saw. I've been experimenting with my new vise setup in there with taking some thin cuts off this rock. And this rock is fully agatized, petrified wood, and I can take thin cuts off of it. I mean, my thinnest cut here, 1.6 millimeters, nice even thin cut. But I got to, as I was cutting, I was just using this rock for experimenting with my new vise and cutting thin. But as I was cutting it, I realized, hey, this is some really beautiful stuff here. It's got really colorful dendrites in it, a couple different colors, yellows, reds, oranges. And it's really transparent. You get it up here in the light, you can see, look at that. Just gorgeous stuff. I'm like, well, maybe I should try and get some thicker slices off of this rock that I can cab before I use up the whole rock. So I think that's what we're going to do. I mean, I got a slice over here that I might be able to cab in areas, but it's got some voids. This one might be I'd be able to cab. This is an early one that's a lot thicker. But these are pretty thin. These are pretty thin. But you know what? They're so cool. They're like stained glass. So very neat. Very neat. But let me try and get some thicker ones, like maybe 3/16 or so at least. That can be cabbed. Well, I've still got some rock in there that I can cut before I use it all up. So let me do that. Alright, so let's get this cut and show on the road. Let me adjust this so I get about a maybe 3/16 inch cut out of this thing at least. Thick enough to cab out of this pretty rock. Much thicker than what I've been cutting up till now. Okay. And let me make sure that's good and tight. Yep. Alright. And we're off. See what we get. Well, there was an especially loud thud at the end of the cut, which I didn't like the sound of. So let's see what we've got in here. It looks like the whole rock came out. But we got a piece. Nice piece here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let me wipe it off. Oh yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful slice right there. But you know what? I didn't really like the sound the saw was making. I think it's time to use the dressing stone on the wheel. Sharpen it up, expose some fresh diamond. I think it was dragging too much during the cut, and that's probably why it flipped the stone out of the vise. But yeah, that's a nice piece. We'll look at this up on the bench while we're cutting the dressing stone, okay? Okay, I've got the dressing stone mounted in the vise here. Make sure it's good and tight so it doesn't flip out. All right. Everything's good and tight, so we'll give it a cut and expose some fresh diamond on the saw. I think the saw will work better after that. I also cleaned up this area some. My friend Jim, who's my mentor in the lapidary art, said I should keep this area cleaner just to prevent any jam-ups with the edge of the saw over there. So I've cleaned that up. So let's get this cut going on the dressing tool. And while that's happening, we'll look at the cut we just made and think about how we want to cut the stone again. So here's the piece we just cut off. And yeah, it's still, even though it's quite a bit thicker, it's still quite translucent. Got some nice orange, yellow, red dendrites in it. Got like some maroon or purple there. So that's nice. That could probably be cabbed into something really pretty right there in that area. Now I'm looking at this stone thinking about how I want to cut it again, and it looks like the really pretty yellow-orange dendrites are kind of concentrated down in the this part of the stone here. So I'm thinking maybe I want to flip it and cut it on this side so we can get some more of these dendrites. That might work better. Might be worth a try anyway. So once we're done with this dressing wheel cut, maybe I'll flip the stone and take a cut on this side and see what it looks like. Okay, there's the cut, the dressing stone done. You get it out, and we'll get this rock in, and we'll see if we can make another cut on it with a little less drama this time. That would be nice. No flying rocks. And let's see. I want to cut it on this face right here. So yeah. My redneck vise opened up here enough to get it in. There we go. Good and tight. Good and tight. So it doesn't go anywhere. Alright. Let me adjust the depth of cut here. Thinner than that, I'm thinking. Yeah, alright. So we'll try that. See what kind of a cut we get out of that. Good and tight. Yeah, here we go. Alright, that cut sounded a whole lot more normal. I liked the sound of that. There was no big thud at the end. Alright. Here's our piece. A little thinner than I wanted. But yeah, it's got some nice dendrites in it. Let me try and get another cut off this rock. I will make it a little thicker than that. But yeah, that's nice. Wow. Oops. Alright. Start another cut here. And take a look at this one, what we've already cut up on the bench. Alright, that should be too thick. That might be too thick. Pull that in a little bit. Alright, we'll try that. I don't want it too thick. I don't want to waste the rock. But I want them thick enough to cab. Alright, so let's take a look at this piece of just cut. I like it. I like it. Yeah, look at the colors in that. And, well, I cut it a little too thin, so it's very translucent. But, wow. The dendrites in there are amazing. I get this a little thicker. I think this area here could be cabbed into something really beautiful. So, let's see what this next cut looks like. Alrighty. Let's see what we got. Ah. Okay. Clean this up a little bit. Well, yeah, this area here, a lot of nice dendrites. You look at the stone. Okay, I think I'm going to take at least one more cut off of it. And then we'll look at all the cuts we made off this stone and maybe move on to something else, okay? So let me do that. All right. Get this cut going, and when it's done, we'll look at both cuts and then move on to something else. All right, so here's the cuts I've made so far, and I've taken the stone out of the saw. I wouldn't have been able to make another cut without repositioning it anyway, so I might as well take it out. There's the first one where the stone popped out at the end of the cut. There's the second one, which turned out too thin. And then there's these two. It's a shame this one is too thin, because I think this has the prettiest dendrites in it. Maybe we could do something with it. I don't know. I'm going to keep it. I'll keep all the thin cuts I made off this stone, because like I said, they're like stained glass. I am tempted to like cut them into little panes and make stained glass out of them. That would be cool. Who has a stained glass window made out of petrified wood? Probably somebody somewhere does. But so this one's got some nice dendrites showing up down in this area around in here. This one, yeah, look at that. That's got a lot of nice dendrites too, but it looks like the dendrites are hanging out at the edge of this rock. All right, so we're just getting them at the edge. So if I really want to see the pretty dendrites, I probably need to take some cuts through here or some cuts through here. But you know what? Maybe even cutting this edge. Looks like it's got some good stuff on it. I will think about that. I'll kind of evaluate what I want to do with the rest of this rock. Once I get through the best of the pretty dendrites in it, I'll probably just tumble the rest of it. And this thing should turn out amazing tumbled. So, but I think we'll move on. I think next we'll cut this one. This thunder egg with the clear quartz in the middle and the all of the agate banding around it. So let me get this in the saw, and we'll take a cut or two on it and see what they look like. Okay, I've got the thunder egg in the saw, and I got it tight down just about as tight as I can get it. This thing's kind of roundish, I'm afraid. The saw pressure might flip it out again. We'll see. Hopefully not. I'm going to take a fairly thin cut on the first pass just to square up the end and see if this thing can handle being cut thin or if it's going to fracture. I don't really see any obvious fractures in it, but you know, you never know. So let's give it a cut and see what the first one looks like and then decide where to go from there. Let's see what we got. I wandered away, so I didn't hear the end of the cut. That looks okay. We got a piece down here. Oh yeah, it's translucent too. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Is that pretty or what? Wow. We'll take a close-up look at that on the bench. And cut another piece off. I don't know if I want to cut them thicker or not. But let's look at this then decide what I'll do. Okay, because this is cool. So check that out. Wow. I love the concentric lines of agate around the quartz in the middle. That's very cool. Very cool. It's about a 1/16 of an inch thick. It's a little uneven. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch where my fingers are, and getting bigger to not quite an 1/8 of an inch at the other end. Next cut should be fairly even though. I knew it would need to be trued up. But wow, that's cool. Very, very cool. Let me try and get another cut. Maybe I will lean towards the slightly thicker end. See if I can get a little over an 1/8 thick, maybe 3/16. See what that looks like. There's a lot of thunder egg there, so I can probably get a few cuts off of it. See what I like better, thick or thin. So here's the next cut. Still fairly translucent. A little darker because it's a little thicker, but nice uniform thickness, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. Nice, very nice. That is amazing pattern. I'm also seeing some hints of color, maybe in the quartz in the center. I'm going to take another slice, try to make it about this thick again, and see if we're getting into any sort of color in the center of that quartz or if they're just random flecks in there. So we'll see. One more cut. Okay, so here's the third slice. About the same thickness as the second one. Just as pretty. There's still a few little yellow flecks in the center, but it doesn't seem to be getting more pronounced. So I guess that's about it. Just a few little yellow flecks. So I'm not sure what to do beyond this. I'm thinking, do I want to cut some thicker to cab? I mean, it would be kind of an odd-shaped cab. You'd pretty much want the whole thing, but still, maybe pretty. Or would I want to cut more thin slices like this? And if this was just polished up and put on like a shiny silver backing, the light could shine through and you could see the translucency and the agate banding in there, I'm thinking. So I need to think about what I want to do with this rock. I mean, it's really pretty. I think I paid a whole $3 for this at the rock shop in South Dakota. I'll put a link in the upper right to our rock shop trip in South Dakota. We spent the whole day just visiting rock shops in South Dakota, and it was a blast. So anyway, leave me a comment too. Let me know what you think. What do you think would be the best use for this rock? All right, I think I'm going to stop cutting on it right now and save it. And save it for the future and decide what to do with it down the road. And we'll cut on something else. What do I want to cut next? Well, let's see. We've been cutting a thunder egg here. How about we cut into one of these geodes and see what's in it? It might be another thunder egg. It's pretty darn heavy. It might not be hollow, or at least not very hollow. I got this at a rock shop in Arizona. Ooh, early May. So I've had it since early May. So this is almost August. So time to do something with this geode. It might be that I can get it in the little vise in there without having to put the big vise back in. Let's see. So I'm thinking I'm going to try cutting it right this way. I don't know if that's the best way. You never know what the best way to cut a geode is until you cut into it, unless you can see some agate on the outside. So I don't know, cutting it this way, but it's not too stable that way. It's not too stable anyway. It's almost round, about the size of a softball. But let me see if I can get it in the saw, and we'll try cutting it on this axis and see what it looks like on the inside. So it's always a mystery with geodes. You never know what you're going to get. So let me get it in the saw. Like this geode here barely fits in my new vise here that I've built, but it does fit, and it seems like it's in here good and sturdy. So we'll give it a shot, see if it'll cut without any issues or drama, and we'll see what we get. Okay, I heard a thud. Let's see what we got. Well, we did cut all the way through, and it does look like it is solid on the inside. So this is a thunder egg, not a geode. You know, it really looked like the stuff at the rock shop was really picked over. I was having a hard time finding any in there that seemed light for their size. That's a pretty pattern in there, though. Hey, let me get the other half out, and we'll take a look at both of them up on the bench, close up. Well, check that out. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Quite pretty on the inside. I think those would be nice if they were polished up. Maybe mounted on something so you could see that they're like two halves of the same thing. Very pretty. Nice agate on the inside. Got a slight blue color to it. Interesting pattern, almost fortification-like around the outside there. Almost. So very pretty. All right. So I've got a couple more of these geodes that I bought on that trip to Arizona that I haven't cut yet. I assume they're probably solid too from the fact that they're so darn heavy, just like this one was for its size. But hopefully they'll be as pretty on the inside as this one is. But I think we'll cut those on another day. Yeah, it's got some interesting colors around the rind there. But yeah, that was fun. I like that. I think it was worth the money. Didn't pay much for it. Maybe $6 a pound, I think, is what they were asking for these geodes, and it's maybe a 2-pound geode. All right, so let's figure out what we want to cut next. I am really itching to try and cutting into this red and blue petrified wood and just see if I can get anything good off of this face of it right here. Now, this wood's very fractured, I think I said earlier, and all of it I've cut so far is kind of fallen apart. And I'm tumbling the pieces. We'll see how they turn out tumbled. But I've kind of got down to this core. It still has some fractures in it, but this area in here seems pretty solid. So we'll see if we can get anything out of it. Now, I've been using my redneck fracture filling method on this. Basically just running some thin cyanoacrylate glue over the cracks I see and letting it soak in by capillary action. So we'll see if that helps hold this together while I cut it. It seems to on rocks I've done in the past. Now, my friend Jim, who is an expert on all things lapidary, he has a method for fracture filling. It's very elaborate, and I'm not going to give away his secret. It's something amazing, but it's very laborious. A lot of moving parts that go into it. And he will fill fractures for people if they have rocks that are like too fractured to cut or polish or facet, but are too valuable to throw away. He has methods for filling fractures. And if you fall into that department where you have really special rocks that are just too special to throw away, but they're too fractured, you don't think you can cut them, fast them, whatever, my buddy Jim can probably help you out there. So contact me, and I'll contact him. And if he has the time and whatnot, he might be able to help you out. Anyway, let me get this in the saw, and we'll see if we can get a cut off of this face. I'll probably have to cut it at close to 1/4 inch thick. Hopefully it won't fall apart. And we'll see if any of this area in here looks really nice and amenable to cabbing. Okay, I've got that piece of blue petrified wood in the saw. I've got it clamped in nice and tight, and I'm going to take the thinnest cut I'm thinking I can get away with, all right? So it's probably going to be a little under 1/4 of an inch. We'll see if I can get away with it. So let's get this started and see if we can get a decent cut out of this stuff. I'm hoping it'll be a little translucent, but as long as it's pretty enough to cab, I'll be happy. All right, let's see what we got. Well, it looks like we got a whole piece. That's nice. Held together. Nice. We'll take a look at this up on the bench under the lights. And I will try to get another slice off of this rock, because I think it's a really pretty rock. So let's see here. I can get another slice about like that one off of it, if it will hold together. Okay, let's have a look while that cuts. Here it is. It's got some really interesting color over here around the rind. Unfortunately, it doesn't go very far in, but it does have this red, a little yellow, some orange, and this sort of pale gray blue background. And it is slightly, ever so slightly translucent. There you can see. Yeah. The pale blue-gray is kind of translucent. We'll see how this next piece looks. Maybe I'll try my luck and try and cut a thinner piece. Although this is pretty nice. And I think this could be cabbed. Maybe get some of the red, the gray, blue, the yellow, almost out to the rind. That might be cabbable there. Might be interesting. Okay, let's see what the next piece looks like. Okay, here's the second piece I cut. And it broke into 2 pieces when it came off. But you know what? When I found this one, I also found this piece. So this one actually broke too. It broke around the fracture where I expected it would break. Okay, so they both did. This one's slightly thinner than the other one. Slightly more translucent. So I'm running out of rock, basically, and I'm getting into stuff that's more fractured. I'm going to push my luck, and I'm trying one cut that's a little thinner than this. and we'll see what I get. I want to see just how translucent it is on a really thin slice. Then we'll probably be about done with this rock, because I don't think there's much material left there to keep cutting on. Probably just tumble the rest of it. Well, attempting to go thinner did not go well. I've quite a jigsaw puzzle of pieces here that broke apart during the cut. Nice and translucent, though. I think you can see just how translucent that thin piece is. Very interesting. I have to say, I do like the whole stained glass effect, but it has to be really nicely agatized to hold together. And this as well, I guess the proper word might be jasperized rather than agatized. It has agatized areas, but I think this rock, I think we're just getting into areas that are just too broken up to bother trying to cut any further, which is a shame because it's got really an amazing pattern right in here. But there's also a lot of fractures going through there, so I don't think I'm going to be able to cut any more off of this rock. It's kind of a mess, unfortunately. It'll probably break up in tumbling too. I can probably just drop it on the ground and we'll break into 3 or 4 pieces that are of a size to tumble, I'm imagining. And the tumbled pieces will probably come out pretty, but well, this was an interesting experiment. Anyway, I got several really nice pieces. Might be able to cab a couple of them. This area up in here looks really nice. Actually, the whole area out here, this might look really nice polished. So, you know, possibly. All right, let's see what we want to cut next. All right, next, let's see what we can do with this end piece of petrified wood. See what kind of a cut I can get off of it and how it's gonna look. All right, I've got another piece that I'm gonna have to put the big vise back in for. So while the small vise is in, let me cut this piece and we'll see how it comes out. All right, this rock's kind of an oddball shape, but I think I have it mounted in there so that the cutting pressure won't flip it out. The cutting pressure should push it into the vise harder, so we'll see. I'm going to try for just a little under 1/4 of an inch cut, and it may be a little uneven. It may be a little thicker on one side than the other, but we'll see how it goes. So hopefully it won't be a complete disaster. Might be an incomplete disaster. I hope not. Here we go. All right, time to see if we got a nice piece cut off or just a bunch of pieces. Well, a few little pieces, but mainly we got one big chunk. All right, that looks a little rough. It looks so ragged to my eye. I guess we've had some chips come out over here. Let's see if we can get another cut going. And we'll take a look at this piece up on the bench while that's happening. Cut. Again, might be pushing our luck with this, but that's what luck's for, to push it. All right, let's take a look at this up on the bench. Well, there it is. Kind of interesting. I like the radial lines. They're not showing up as well as I'd hoped. It's also not very translucent. I'm going to try and cut the next piece a little thinner. It may just fall apart, but that's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, not as pretty as I was hoping, but definitely interesting. Let's see what the next piece looks like. Okay, so here's the second cut, and I have to say I think I like it better than the first. The radial lines, you can really tell this is wood. All right, yeah, that's pretty, and it's a little more translucent than this first cut, even though they're about the same thickness. But look at the face of the rock. I was gonna have to take this rock out because it was pretty much as far into the blade as it could go without having to reposition it. But look at this. This is pretty. It's like the deeper I cut into this, the prettier the wood pattern is on there. That's really nice. Get a good focus on it for you. Yeah, that's beautiful. But I think to cut any more off of this rock, I'm going to have to do some more of my redneck crack filling. Ceiling, because it really looks like it wants to fissure. I got some lines coming in this way, this way, this way. I got a feeling that'll fall apart if I try to cut any more off of it. But yeah, it's getting really pretty in there. So that was a fun cut. But I think I'm going to set this aside for now and decide what to do with it. Maybe I'll fissure fill it, maybe not. We'll see. All right, let's see what's next. All right, next we've got this big honker, and for this, I think I'm going to take my little vise out and put the big vertical vise back in, and see if I can get a few slices off this. I want slices parallel to this face right here, because I think this is really pretty right here. So let me switch out the vices and get this in there, and I might just slice off this all fractured section down here just to get rid of it, because I know it's just going to crumble anyway if I try to take any cuts this way perpendicular to it. So I might as well just cut this whole section off. Maybe I can get some pieces that are worthy of tumbling out of it. And then what's left, hopefully I can do slices off of it like this. So let me switch the saw over and we will give it a cut. All right, I've got the big vertical vise reinstalled in here. Took my little vise out. Got that big rock in here. I'm going to try and take a cut across here and get rid of this part right in here that's all fractured. And then we'll flip the rock 90 degrees and see if we can get any cuts off of the really pretty side. So let's get this show on the road, because this is a big rock and it's going to take a long time to cut. So get her started. Alrighty, let's see what we got after this first cut on this big chunker. Well, that's a little surprising. It came off in a single piece, more or less. There's a few little chips around it, but pretty much one piece. Although, whew, look at all those fractures. Yeah. I'll bet if I was just drop this on the ground, it would break into about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least pieces, if not a lot more. All right. Yeah, we got a few chips that came off here too. All right, so let me turn this 90 degrees and we'll see if we can get a relatively thin cut off of the pretty face that doesn't seem to have that many fractures in it. All right, I've got the stone turned 90 degrees and locked back down, and I'm going to cut this a little thicker than I really want to, just because I'm afraid it might fall apart if I try to cut it too thin. It's got too many fractures. We'll see. It might be a little thick for cabbing, but at least hopefully it'll hold together for cabbing. So let's get her cut and see what happens. Okay, my goodness, that was a long cut. Let's see what we've got. Ah, we've got some pieces is what we've got. I was afraid it might not hold together. Let's see what these pieces look like. Huh. Well, yeah, that's kind of the pretty stuff I was hoping to get right there. Okay. Now the pattern's kind of changing and fading a lot just on, I don't know, 3/16 thickness of this thing. I don't know how far into this we can go before we run out of good stuff. There's a lot of fractures here. My goodness. If I'm going to try and cut and cab this, I'm going to have to do a lot of redneck fracture filling on it. Otherwise, it'll fall apart when I try to cut it to shape. But yeah, I like that pattern. I like the black, yellow, orange, red. Maybe it's just me, but I like that. Let's see about this other piece that came off here. A few other little pieces down there. Yeah. These pieces out of here. We have a look. Face of the rock here. That's still pretty nice looking. I think we'll try one more cut. You know, if we get another chunk out as big as this one, I'll be happy. So let's try. Let's see. Okay. We'll take a look at this while that's cutting. With plenty of time. It's a long cut. Well, as soon as I set this thing down on the bench, this corner came off. So that tells you how delicate it is with all the little fractures in it. I think I'd be really lucky to be able to cut and cab this, but I do like the pattern. The yellow, red, orange. I think it's really pretty. And it's very different. I'd have to have a tough time deciding which side I like best. Maybe this side. Yeah, maybe that side a little better. Okay, let's see what this next piece looks like. Well, let's see what we got. Oh, looks like we've got jigsaw puzzle is what we've got. I don't think I can get any more cuts off this stone. I'm thinking that's just way too fractured. But let me grab these pieces out of here, clean them up, and we'll look at them up on the bench and see if any of them are any good. Maybe some of them are useful. Well, that was fairly disastrous, although this piece right here looks pretty nice. As you can see, it broke off the back. There must have been a fracture in there running this way that I didn't even see. Came off, but there's a lot. I don't know if they're showing up there. There you can see it. Look at the fractures in that. That's not going to hold together the cab. I mean, maybe this section down here, maybe this section up here. I mean, I don't even think my redneck fracture filling is going to help that. I think that's just going to fall apart at some point. And the other pieces, just they're useless. I take pieces like this and I use them as tumbling media rather than buying the ceramic tumbling medium. I just use my little chips for that. Works pretty well, I think. So I've got some chips here for that. This one, maybe we can do a little better. It's not nearly as fractured. You don't see those fracture lines in the reflection. Maybe a few minor ones. But this one, I don't know. This one might be beyond hope, other than maybe down here in this area and this area up here. Anyway, well, I wanted to know what that rock was like. So now I know. And the rest of it's probably pretty useless. I might bust it up for tumbling stones. Not just media like this, but I mean the larger pieces, they'll tumble up pretty. So that's probably where I'll go with that. Anyway, in the next video, my wife has commissioned me to make something out of a rather large piece of really good looking petrified wood I've got. So I think in the next video we will tackle that, as well as maybe cutting up a few more rocks to see what's inside and if we can get any nice cabbable slabs out of them. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to see the future video and other videos that are coming down the pike. And give this video a like, a thumbs up if you found it at all interesting, educational, informative, whatever. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.